An English classic. We're in Northumberland with Al Gabriel and Chloe Forbes, stalking Roebucks and talking roe genetics, women in shooting, and to mark Lyme Disease Awareness Month, tick tactics.
This is the next kit.
This is the next thing.
Tick 1000, that's what you need.
The tick 1000,
Copyright pending.
I love it.
Plus, we have a special deal for you on tick-resistant clothing. The English Open attracted hundreds of the country's top clay shooters. Watch our report from the event. And rewilders, they are invading Wales just as Fieldsports is under attack there. Deborah finds out what country people have to fear from that faddy word, rewilding.
That farm, literally on the border to us, will never be farmed again.
We have a competition for you to win a housegun moderator priced at around £300. David brings you the news on the news stump, and James Marchington collects together the best hunting and shooting videos in Hunting YouTube. Welcome to Fieldsports Britain. We don't interview the likes of Neil, Paul and Roy about the challenges they face as a middle-aged white man in British shooting for obvious reasons. It's a situation that needs addressing, and experienced stalker Dr. Al Gabriel has been working to balance things out for years.
We need more women simply just to look natural. Firstly, it's not a male sport. You know, they're half the population, don't forget. Women represent half the population. And something as critical as conservation surely must have women in it.
Makeshift target, carcass box, lid, bit of cardboard.
This evening and tomorrow morning, we're joining Al and his friend Chloe on a Roebuck stalk in Northumberland.
So today we're shooting 100 grain 243 copper. This is peregrine from Edinburgh Rifles. Very odd looking.
Yeah.
Probably the ugliest bullets you've ever seen. So here you go. Really odd looking, but they work apparently. So
Let's see.
So why have you got those? Sorry, I've never heard of the...
It's peregrine, so I'm testing them out because obviously there aren't many 100 grain 243 bullets because you have to make them longer to get the weight, and they don't stabilize into force-3 traditionally. But Edinburgh Rifles have got a system where this is actually working, so I'm testing them out to make sure that they are an equivalent replacement, so to speak. The shape is unusual, but as long as they work, I've zeroed them this morning. So far so good.
Have you used them before, Al?
First time.
Okay. So I'm the guinea pig.
Chloe is a novice stalker. She has her DSC 1 and is after more experience.
Right there.
What are you worried about? Look at that.
Right there.
Ultimately, I'd love to be able to kind of manage a bit of ground, and I think it's just about building that confidence in yourself and going out with different people as well. I think you learn so much. Like, I've been out with quite a few different stalkers now, and each time I've learned something kind of different from them.
Field sports is already a major part of her life, training dogs, fishing, and she's been a clay and game shot for years, which helps when you work for Country Sports Scotland.
So I'm the project manager for Country Sports Scotland, and that's essentially an organisation which supports businesses in kind of advertising their country sports opportunities.
Okay. Did you enjoy it?
Very much so, yeah.
You were giving me the sort of like the
serious talk.
The LinkedIn version.
Yeah, sorry. No, I absolutely love it. I mean, I kind of live and breathe it every single day, and I think it's really rewarding as well when, you know, you work with estates and, you know, you get a customer that inquires and you match it up and they go and they have a fantastic experience and you get that feedback. So that's really satisfying as well, part of the job.
What makes Al's efforts to introduce women to stalking even more powerful is he's not what the British media or public would expect from a UK hunter. He's originally from Ethiopia. He's a scientist, a member of the Basque Council. He writes for Shooting Times. His introduction to hunting came through the TA, what's now the Army Reserve.
A couple of the guys said, you know, do you want to give deerstalking a go? And I said, yeah, sure. Joined them up before a Saturday shoot. And I was hooked, basically, and it's literally been my entire existence ever since. But the shooting, I've always said this, you know, for almost a decade, the shooting community is a very welcoming community.
I found it odd that Countryfile were trying to make it an issue. People of colour are not welcome in the countryside.
Most people are genuinely, they are colourblind. In fact, most people go out of their way to accommodate me, make sure I'm looked after, etc. I knock around people's doors and say, do you mind if I shoot pigeon on your ground? Do you mind if I manage deer? Most of them say yes. That tells me, the countryside is quite open, and whatever issues people have had, I'm sure they must have had some issues. But I think there's more of it in urban areas than out here.
Foresters harvested the trees a few weeks ago, and with the new saplings in the ground, they want the roe kept off. These aren't just any roe, they are true British roe.
So the reason you get really impressive heads down south is where genetic meets southern minerals. Our Roebucks here don't have impressive heads, tiny heads. Even a 6-year-old will have a tiny head. They're not Germanic imports. Whenever I invite somebody to come and stalk here, I always sell it as the true English classic, and everybody comes for that. I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with it, but at least there's one paper where they've done genetic studies across the country, and the Northumberland Cumbrian line, slight variation on that, and I'll take that as a selling point.
You know a bit about genetics, then?
I'm a geneticist by training, yes.
It's tricky underfoot, but at least on here, away from the long grass, there's less chance of ticks. According to Al, this area is teeming with them. As a biologist, he's done plenty of research and written about these disease-infested insects.
The other thing I've noticed is your head to toe in Rovit's clothing, which is a tick repellent style of clothing, and I'm in a t-shirt at the moment, so I'm feeling pretty vulnerable, Al. So
where we are here probably is one of the most infested places in the whole of the island. I've run drag sheets, so what I'm saying comes from experience. You have to be sensible. I've been testing this for about 6 months. I normally wear a wader type thing, so I don't like any exposure on my skin. And I wear light gloves. I don't even in the summer, I just don't like exposing skin at all. So ticks are serious because, they can ruin your life. Still a rare disease fairly, and there's treatments for it. It's just deer stalkers are high risk, and it's very hard to get that message across an 18-year-old who just started his stalking career, because he's more obsessed about gear and kit.
With no sign of life, we call it a night and line up for a brushing down.
This is the famous tick brush, all right? I'll show you how it works. You're coming from the field, before you contaminate your vehicle, arms out. It's like an Air Force search. There you go. Extremities back and forth.
okay.
There's so much I
Done.
can say right now.
Done. There you go.
Yeah.
You're next, David.
Come on then. Come on.
Does someone else have to do you?
There you go.
I'm not sure.
Extremities.
Jeez.
There you go. Oh. Good service.
There's a lot of it. There's so much. I mean,
Just don't tell your husband. And that's basically it.
Is that a particular type of brush? It's quite soft. Can I have a feel?
You can't have a feel of my brush, David.
It's now covered in ticks, so that's the trouble.
No, it's not.
Okay. All right.
Standard bristle, standard brush.
Okay.
It's just much easier. Because green stuff just doesn't reveal ticks easily, so you can't spot them, so might as well just
Brush it down.
brush them down. It's much
Okay,
easier.
all
Most
right.
of them are around your gaiters, that sort of thing, and that's it.
Is this a first? This is a Fieldsports channel
That's
first.
I mean, we'd like
This
to
is the
cover
next-
innovations, but this is
This is the next kit.
this is the next thing.
Tick
I mean,
1000. That's what you need
The Tick 1000.
Copyright
I
pending.
love it.
from B&Q.
It's a 4:45 a.m. rendezvous for our roe stalking party. This time we're going to stalk past the clear fell and look across some young forestry. The only thing we spot is a single doe. Either Al is doing his job or the recent heavy forestry has moved them on. On the way to our last vantage point, where Chloe shot her last buck, David asks Al about his new pulsar merger. He's a fan of this binocular-style thermal.
You can take pictures, capture videos. It's got laser rangefinder, so I can always know how far something is. It's just reliable.
And why the sort of the two eyepiece thing there? Why does that work for you?
So what tends to happen is when you have a monocular, a single lens, because one eye is exposed to light, one is not, and that differential is quite difficult to resolve. So I like having this even on bullseye, so light's delivered to bullseyes, and the rate between the left and the right is fairly equal. And I find that very easy to kind of focus when I switch to a rifle.
Our last spot is beautiful, with the sound of a cuckoo echoing around the valley. But the area is not giving up its deer today. After an enjoyable couple of outings, we head back to the vehicles without a Northumberland buck. There's always the tick brushing to look forward to. For more information about the Pulsar merger, go to thomasjacks.co.uk, and for all the other kit you've seen, go to kitfinder.co.uk. Thank you, Al and Chloe. Now, we had a winner of last week's competition for the tick-proof top from Rovince, Paul Howard. Congratulations, Paul. Talking of Rovince, which Al was wearing in that item, and to mark Lyme Disease Awareness Month, we have a 10% discount offer on Rovince clothing. Link is bit.ly/Rovince, and if you go there, you'll find the 10% discount preloaded into your shopping trolley. Isn't that clever? It means you can buy these duo-fit trousers for under £100 and the Ergoline jacket we gave away this week for just £86.35, down from £95. You'll find the link bit.ly/Rovince below. Also below, you'll find the link to the video diary piece we did with Tim Pulbeam on what life is like living with Lyme disease. And if you have a simple tick-proof technique or tip you can share, please pop it into comments below. Now, this week's prize is a lightweight Housecon moderator, kindly donated by Amatec UK, which you can buy retail for around £300. Easiest way to enter the competition is to join the Fieldsports Nation, link to that below. Next up, he has fewer ticks on him than his own GCSE English language examination paper. It is David on the Fieldsports Channel News Stump.
This is Fieldsports Channel News. A change to game bird releasing in England could cause problems for shoots. Basque says changes to an interim game bird release licence in England risks throwing hundreds of shoots into financial turmoil, risking jobs, businesses and ongoing conservation projects. It's calling for an urgent response from DEFRA over the government's decision to ban game bird release on or within 500 metres of European protected sites in England, which could come into effect on the 31st of May 2023. The RSPB welcomes the news.
Anyone who has game birds on a rearing field, the thought that these birds could be put out with avian influenza being present in them would know how unlikely that is, how small that risk is and how it can be managed. But anybody who keeps birds of whatever type, whether that's backyard chickens, game birds on a rearing field or birds that are in a release pen, we need to follow the best practice security, biosecurity, and all the other rules that the government put in place at the particular time based on proper risk assessments.
Chris Packham is the new president of the RSPCA. The BBC TV presenter, who is currently threatening Fieldsports Channel with legal action, told the anti-hunting Mirror newspaper that he wants to make changes to UK farming, but he did not mention hunting or shooting sports in his statement. The RSPCA had a long history of campaigning against hunting until 2012, when it revealed it had paid £330,000 in legal bills in just one action against the Heathrop hunt. Its chief executive resigned a little over a year later. A report that proposes a ban on salmon fishing in Wales is futile and vindictive, according to anglers. Natural Resources Wales, NRW, says a ban on salmon fishing in Welsh rivers and the English stretch of the Wye would be a last resort to protect the species. Local fishermen are describing it as a last-ditch desperate attempt to cover up 20 years of failed policies. The Wye Salmon Association says that Atlantic salmon numbers are declining so fast that by the time new research findings are ready, the species will be extinct in Wales. An NRW spokesman says a report to understand the risks salmon face found that fishing is one of the pressures. There is more on Welsh rivers in this week's news feature. Firefighters have been tackling the 7th blaze on Marsden Moor in Yorkshire this year. West Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service received dozens of calls after local people spotted plumes of smoke. At its height, more than 40 firefighters tackled the blaze, which covered an area of about a square kilometre. Marsden Moor is managed by the National Trust, which is opposed to controlled burning that helps prevent wildfires. The UK government says it's toughening up its failed Ivory Act. As well as elephant ivory, it plans to ban imports of teeth or ivory from hippopotamuses, orcas and walruses. Ministers are tightening the ban to include all ivory-bearing species, so these won't be poached to fill the gap in the trade left by the elephant ivory ban. Meanwhile, elephant ivory remains widely available, renamed as bone. Forestry England has revealed it culled 2,000 deer in the New Forest in 2022. It released the figures at a meeting of the Verdurous Court, which is a group of officials who manage the land for the Crown on behalf of commoners. The court heard that despite efforts to keep deer numbers down, the population had increased in some parts of the forest. A Forestry England spokesperson says the organisation is part of the National Deer Management Initiative, and last year its local team culled 2,035 deer. An English council has passed a landmark motion to include meat and game birds on its menus. Cornwall Council voted to commit that all food provided at its meetings, including meat and dairy, is sourced from local suppliers. A Conservative councillor proposed the motion to commit the council to developing stronger partnerships with arable, livestock and dairy farmers. The move comes in the face of several motions passed at other councils across the country, which encourage residents to buy plant-based produce in a move away from meat, while also committing to only source vegan options for councillors at events. Oxfordshire County Council sparked outrage amongst farmers in 2021 when it passed a motion to ban meat and dairy at its events. 3 councils, Edinburgh City Council, Norwich City Council and Haywards Heath Town Council in Sussex, have also signed up to the Plant-Based Treaty, which calls for an end to the construction of any future livestock farm and pushes plant-based foods in schools and hospitals. The Countryside Alliance says the decision by Cornwall Council is important as it recognises the nutritional importance of locally sourced meat.
This matters because there are councils in this country, Oxfordshire, Enfield in London and Edinburgh City Council, that are signed up to what we would consider to be blatantly anti-livestock motions that divide people, that try and impose a particular diet on sections of society, and we are fundamentally against that, because without livestock farming we simply wouldn't have the beautiful countryside that we all know and love.
Scottish country estates are helping thousands of youngsters get closer to nature. The Estates That Educate initiative gives youngsters hands-on experience and an insight into rural careers. Around 2,000 young people take part in the training sessions throughout the year, from the southern uplands to the Anglers Glens, Grampian Tayside and the banks of Loch Ness. Scotland's regional moorland group says many of the youngsters have never been to the moors. Gamekeepers and shepherds share their experiences on a variety of activities, including farming, fishing, foraging, working with gun dogs, forestry and deer management. Shooters are claiming foul play over the duck hunting season. And finally, a herd of escaped buffalo charged through a couple's garden and stopped for a swim. The animals took a dip in a new outdoor pool in Essex, causing £25,000 worth of damage. The owners say the garden was ruined by the stampede of animals in the 15-minute rampage in July 2022. The buffaloes had escaped from a rare breeds farm and were later rescued unharmed by the farmer. It's believed that an electric fence was not working at the farm, leading to the animals escaping their field and heading into the garden of the house in Colchester. You are now up to date with Fieldsports Channel News. Stalking the stories, fishing for facts.
Thank you, David. And if you like David, please click the like button below. Everyone likes David. Now, the new field tester is out. It's everything you were afraid to ask about thermal and night vision, including Tim Pilbeam, Mr. 260 Rips Mark Ripley, and £40,000 worth of kit to play with. Link to that below. Next, the English Open, where Olympic gold medalist Richard Forbes set about cementing his reputation as the greatest sporting shot in the country.
Clay shooters are flocking to Eriswell Lodge shooting ground in East Anglia for the English Open Sporting Championships. It's the CPSA's first major championship of the year, and a prestigious title that all the top shots would love to win. Stuart Smith, whose family own the ground, has set a course that will separate the best from the also-rans.
It's been quite a vertical learning curve for me on this. We have to set a round that is capable of challenging the best of the best in the country. On day one, we had Richard Forbes, George Digweed, Mark Windsor, all exceptional shots. Yesterday, we had Sam Green, Richard Bunnings in today with Martin Myers. So, we've got more or less the entire top 20 CPSA ranked sporting shots have shot this competition. but you've got to keep it entertaining for everybody else as well, and that's really important too. You know, there's only a handful that could win an event like this, but everybody else needs to have a good day too. So we've got to make it so they can put in a score that they're happy with, but we're also going to challenge because it is the English Open. For the most part, people are coming off and saying they've thoroughly enjoyed themselves, didn't shoot terribly well, but have loved it. There's a lot of laughter going on the course, which is really important to me. Stand 3, the simultaneous pair on there, was designed to be one of the harder ones, yes, and there's an awful lot of people saying that, as I'm sure you've heard. And then we've also got stand 12, where we've got a good pair of incomers. They're catching a few people there. But the single target, which seems to be the most interesting, is stand 14's looper off of said mountain behind you. That's quite an interesting target because it's a looper that's about 20 metres in the air and it goes up before it comes down. So it's a long way. The squirrel is on stand 6. So it's basically just standard rabbit trap, but without a spring. So all it does is it rolls it down a little chute across the floor at a ridiculously slow pace. It's barely even walking pace, I think. But there's a fair pile of clays at the end of that one that haven't been shot to. So just goes to show you haven't got to have a 70-yard batu to test somebody.
Unlike some of the big championships, this year's English Open is run on a first-past-the-post system. There's no super final. If you shoot the top score around the course, you've won. Simple as that.
There was much debate over the structure or format of the competitions and the difference between the English Open and the British Open. And the decision was made, I think the right decision, that you come along and shoot, you put your score in, and it is first past the post. We will, of course, have shoot-offs tomorrow if needed. But I think that's the right format for the English. I think the old system that we had previously was a bit of a halfway house between that and the British with the qualification and then a super final. So we're trialling this way, but I think it is the right way, and we've had a lot of positive comments.
Ian has been having an informal competition with his CPSA colleague Richard and Keith from SWATCOM. He's shooting a rather unusual-looking Browning with an adjustable high rib.
Yeah, this is something we've got. The Browning Have-A-Go stands here. We've got several of their guns for people to try, and we've had some Browning shooters come along and try different guns, and also some shooters who use other models, other brands, and have been trying different things. We've just been having a go on the pool shoot, just having a little bit of fun. Yeah, this one's it's actually a left-handed. I am a lefty, so we brought this along and had quite a few people try it. It's quite an interesting gun. It's their Pro Master version, and it's got an adjustable rib on it. There was a gentleman yesterday who's looking at buying one, and we were doing some work on some clays over there, and he was just shooting some clays. But it was interesting changing it, and it does instantly change the pattern placement. And yeah, he was very impressed with it, so we sent him off to a local shop to go and hopefully order one.
Another Browning fan is Aaron Christie, who's 13 and comes from Buckinghamshire.
I started with a Beretta lightweight, which kicked a lot, so I had to change to a Browning 725. And then I got onto this Browning 525, and it's got custom adjustable stock, so it just fits well if I grow. We haven't had to change it too much, but just trigger and a bit more length on the stock. But padded as well, so it doesn't hurt as much if it's a heavy cartridge. I've been winning some county cups and stuff like that. Yeah, and joint second with Chloe Forbes and the Live Ale.
Out on the course, things are hotting up. Everyone has their eye on Richard Fold's 115, but so far it's proving unbeatable.
I didn't shoot particularly well. I thought it was a great course, excellent target, something there for everybody. Great setup. The work that they've put in is phenomenal. Like I say, not done very well, but you can't win them all. They've got something there for everybody. There's a few good stands that will sort out everybody else. There's the sim there on stand 3. I think there's also stand 12 and the loop on stand 14. Everything else, it's testing, but it's there. It's there to be had. If you fill it in, then you're doing well. If you get over your hard stands, then you should be in for a decent score. And I don't know how Richard Foles shot 115. It's incredible. It's just not there. It was just not there.
With just the last few squads to shoot, there are a couple of big names that might just be able to challenge Folds' score. John Bidwell survives the notorious stand 3 with barely a dent on his card. Paul the ref is impressed.
Been one straight today, young lad straight it, but no one else. John Bidwell comes close with 7. I shot it on Thursday and I got 4 on it, I think, 3 or 4. Excellent course, course.
Former world champion Richard Bunning starts well, but as the odd clay slips away, it's clear he won't be challenging Folds' lead today.
It's been a lovely round of clays. Technical, and we've got the wind today, so whether it's made any difference, I don't know, but it's been a great round of clays. We had a nice squad again, and yeah, we thoroughly enjoyed it. I finished on 109, which it's light. I know it's 115 in, so that's a great score around there. And I don't know whether it's on there today. I don't know. There's a pair of crows there, very difficult, especially in this wind. But yeah, 109. I could add a few more, but I think 115. I think I'll be amazed if it's beat. I think that's a great score. And I think he's got it in the bag. I think that's there.
Billy Bourne has enjoyed the course too, but won't be making the podium this time.
Yeah, I thought it was good course. I enjoyed it. Didn't shoot very well, but I thought it was good. Ran well. There's no hold-ups. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, no, it's a lovely ground.
Yeah, no, it's smart. This clubhouse is pretty special, isn't it?
And what are you looking forward to next? Are you shooting the Worlds?
Yeah, I'm shooting the Worlds. Yeah, looking forward to that. So that'd be good. Looking forward to the British. Yeah, looking forward to all of it, to be honest.
Browning shooter Callum Burrell has shot 98, which won't be enough to make the top 3 in juniors.
Certainly some challenging stands, but there's also been fun ones as well. We think I've finished joint 4th in juniors, so I think I'm about 6 clays light, but it's another experience and we're going to make sure not to miss as many next time. Yeah. It's a Browning 725 Pro Sport. I've been using it for around 2 years now. Had a custom-made stock put on it because I'm 6'6", so it's not quite ever going to fit me normally. Love it. It's been to America with me, just come back from Cyprus as well, and it always seems to hit them when I put it in the right place. So as long as I'm doing that, it does well. Yes, I'm already booked into the Worlds. I'm hoping that today's results will put me into the England team as well. We'll find out in a couple of weeks, and looking forward to that, definitely.
In the end, no one has managed to touch Folds' score. There's a shoot-off for runner-up, which is won by James Atwood, with Nick Portlock in 3rd. Just like the Essex Masters 3 weeks ago, Richard has set the standard early on and proved unbeatable. He's the 2023 English Open champion, another title to add to his long list of achievements.
Yeah, delighted. Shot Wednesday morning, managed to shoot 115, and it's held for the week. So, yeah, really pleased, really pleased.
Yeah, fantastic. You enjoy the course?
Yeah, I mean, you always enjoy it when you win, but I think in all fairness to Stuart and his team here, they've put on a great shoot. There was targets there to suit everybody. There was 2 or 3 sort of separator stands. Plenty of stands where, you know, everybody could get their confidence back and break some targets again. They've done a great job with the ground. Everything looks fantastic. It's run to clockwork, so can't complain. You know, it's been really good.
For the full results, see the CPSA website at cpsa.co.uk. And for more about Browning guns, go to browning.eu.
Congratulations, Richard. Next up, it's one of those faddy words of the moment, rewilding. Does it include shooting? It's hard to define, as Deborah Hadfield finds out.
An invasion of Wales is underway. Large companies, many of them based in London, are buying up land to use carbon credits. It has doubled the price of agricultural land in Wales in the last year. The Countryside Alliance says the Welsh Government is allowing rewilding and the planting of thousands of trees on a huge scale.
When Welsh Government banned shooting on NRW land based on ethics and morals, I find the fact that they are accepting these companies into Wales and giving them grant funding, and I'm finding it very difficult how they can now see that this is morally acceptable to the general public. By losing this land, we risk food security. We are reducing the amount of shooting in Wales. It's inevitable. And it's ironic that Welsh Government do not want to admit to the value of shooting in terms of conservation, land management, carbon sequestration even. Yet they are prepared to allow this to happen, to allow people to come into Wales, pilfering our land in order to offset their dirty emissions.
It's green rush, driven by greenwashing.
Welsh Government probably don't really want to take into consideration that we may lose shooting in Wales to rewilding projects. They probably want to just turn a blind eye to that. But what we must do as a shooting community is highlight all these things that are going on in the countryside, highlight this mass rewilding, this mass tree planting in order to save shooting in the future.
Shooter and farmer Eddie Field says the 3 farms next to his land in Carmarthenshire in South Wales have been sold in the last 12 months for rewilding. It means almost 500 acres around him will be planted with trees.
Is the government concerned about damaging field sports with all this rewilding? No, the government does not care. In Wales, they hate it. They are proving that. They are proving that they want to rid the countryside of field sports. There's nothing that can be done. Absolutely nothing. Unless this government leaves and they start realising that we need the countryside, we need farming for this country to survive. We've been doing it well now for a lot of years. Why stop it? Why destroy a good thing? Something that's perfect, it's balanced. In the countryside, everything we're doing is helping every aspect of it. Farming, feeding the people, maintaining the land, which looks after the animals.
Part of the reason is government grants and tax breaks. In some places in the UK, landowners can plant trees and walk away with £1,000 a hectare in profit. 1,000 hectares of forestry can earn you £1 million and get you an asset from the timber in the distant future. Farmer and shooter Gareth Wynne-Jones says farming and field sports deliver better benefits for climate change than rewilding.
We need to challenge government as well, with giving tax incentives for these things. Because I believe greenwashing, offsetting carbon shouldn't be. I know for a fact that this green grass is sequencing more carbon than trees do. You plant a tree, it won't start sequestering for 10 years, and it doesn't finish sequestering till the end of its lifetime. So really, we're just peeing in the ocean, and that's ridiculous in my opinion. Let's talk about how we can develop ways of protecting our farming families.
Eddie is a champion angler and used to fish for the England team as a teenager. He says that rewilding will affect stocks of salmon and trout in Welsh rivers.
When you plant conifer forestry, the ground becomes acidic. And as we all know how wet it gets here, okay, the runoff from that acidic water is going to go straight into these tributaries where the suin and the salmon spawn, change the pH level to a point where they won't be able to come up, they won't survive. And that's the end of the salmon and suin and some of the most famous rivers for them in Wales. The end. If they can't come up these rivers, which they've been doing for thousands of years, the same rivers that they were born in to spawn, what's left? If they can't reproduce, they're dead. They won't go up another river. They keep coming back to the same place. And that's it. There's also in those tributaries a good number of wild brown trout. And now if these wild brown trout can't get up to a good size, they die.
The Countryside Alliance in Wales says the government needs to look at the wider impact of rewilding on the rural community.
You've got to think about it in the bigger picture. So things about your heritage, your culture, losing your Welsh language, those are the things that make governments twitch a little, shall we say, rather than us basically banging on about shooting. So let's think about outside the box as a community, as a shooting community, and send that message home to politicians. That actually, it's not just shooting that is part of our heritage, culture and so on, but it's everything else in the countryside that fits in perfectly with shooting.
Gareth fears if the government doesn't listen to the field sports community, the damage of planting thousands of trees will be irreversible as the land is unlikely to be farmed again.
I'm telling every single government to stop what they're doing before the damage is done and before we go hungry. This doesn't come every single day. This land is here for a purpose. We've managed this land. You know, we've grazed it. We've made sure we've been able to feed the nation on it. You lose that and you are going to go hungry.
Does kind of stick in your throat a bit when you see all this great work for conservation going on through shooting in Wales, yet we have a government that simply do not want to acknowledge this. I'm not saying they don't know that shooting is hugely beneficial to improving our biodiversity and so on, but they just don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to give you any credit for it. Yet they're willing for carbon credits to be sold, losing valuable land here in Wales that is grown food for generations.
Truly one of the saddest things that I find, and it really is one of the saddest things, is that farm, literally on the border to us, will never be farmed again. It can't happen. Once it's planted, that ground can never be used for anything else for generations. It is going to be the death of that farm. It will no longer be Penbach Farm. It will be forestry on the side of the road owned by a company that has never probably even seen it and doesn't care about it apart from the money that it can make them and offset their carbon footprint. That's it. And we are killing all of this.
The trend for planting trees and allowing carbon offset is happening across the UK, thanks to vast grants and favourable tax benefits. Some fear that if the government doesn't heed their warnings, that the benefits of shooting for the economy and well-being will be eroded.
Thanks all who took part in that. And if you've been discussing rewilding with friends and you can't put your finger on what annoys you about it, don't hesitate to send them a link to this film. Now, from rich companies messing with our future to the wider world of hunting and shooting, films on YouTube, brought to you by James Marchington, it is Hunting YouTube.
This is Hunting YouTube, which aims to show the best hunting and shooting videos that YouTube has to offer. First this week, here's one from the USA, where they use life-size decoys to bring in deer. It features 5 memorable hunts, including one where a big buck absolutely flattens the decoy. Next up, here's our old friend JP, the seated gun, with a blooper reel of things that have gone wrong over the past season, from stumbling over his words to crashing the drone. Meanwhile, Wash Wildfowler is shooting pigeons without a hide. He just digs a hole among some thick cover and has a hectic few hours protecting a crop of organic cauliflowers. Bailey's shooting and country wear is dealing with grey squirrels at a feeder, shooting them with a Bergara 22 rimfire. Loads of good quality scope footage, and he manages not to put any holes in the feeder. RJM Hunting Australia responds to a call for help from farmers with lambs on the way. Over 3 nights he shoots 50 foxes plus a lot of rabbits for good measure. Remy Warren heads to Argentina for the red rut in this film from a series on Seiko rifles. It's tricky work calling them in thick brush and shooting at no more than a few yards. It's already duck season in New Zealand, and Josh Lee and friends are having great success using calls to bring them into the flight ponds. Finally this week, if you want to know how to butcher a deer professionally, Basque Films have this excellent video by Scott Ray taking you through the process step by step on a muntjac. That's it for this week. We've put all these films into a playlist for you. Click on the eye symbol top right or check this film's description. If you have a YouTube film you'd like us to pop into the weekly top 8, email Charlie the link, charlie@fieldsportschannel.tv.
And that's it for this week. If you haven't done so already, please whiz over to our website, fieldsportschannel.tv. You can click to like us there on Facebook and on Instagram. You can follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube, pop your email address into our register page, and we'll contact you about the show. Fieldsports Britain, it's at 7 PM UK time every Wednesday. And this has been Fieldsports Britain. Good hunting, good shooting, good fishing, and goodbye.